people need someone to blame. And more often than not, as the leader of your organization, when someone feels like something isn't right, they need someone to blame, and that someone is usually you. I'm Michael Mogill, founder and CEO of Crisp, the nation's #1 law firm growth company. I've built my business through practice, not theory. Crisp started with just $500 to my name and has grown to over 8 figures in revenue over the last few years, earning a spot on the Inc. 500 list of the fastest growing private companies in America. Our approach has been to take everything we've learned about generating massive growth within our own organization and help the country's most ambitious and committed law firm owners do the same for theirs. In each episode of this podcast, I sit down with innovative market leaders from the legal industry and beyond to learn from those who thrive in the face of adversity, challenge the status quo, and define what it means to be a true game changer.
This is Jessica, Head of Coaching Strategy at Crisp, and today we're flipping the script for another special edition episode to get Michael's take on choosing the long-term health of your firm over short-term popularity, why the conversations you avoid are often the ones your team needs most, and the difference between holding people accountable and pushing them away.
If you truly care about your people and you care about your team, then you're willing to deliver the feedback that they need, and you're also willing to take the fact that some aren't going to respond well to it and may not like you in that present moment.
That's coming up on the Game Changing Attorney podcast. All right, feel like it's been a minute, Michael. Welcome back to the AMMA.
What's up, guys? I'm here.
It's your favorite thing to do.
It is my favorite thing to do. I really enjoy this. It doesn't feel like, we tell the girls like, oh, where are you going? They go to school in the morning and we go to work. And they're like, oh, what are you doing today? Well, I'm recording a podcast. They're like, what's that, right? But I'm excited to do these. As long as you guys continue to submit questions and you listen to these episodes, we'll continue to produce them. And one of the questions that came in, that wasn't, I guess, one of the questions that is part of our 3 questions later, but one question we get a lot is, after these summits, like, what do we do to celebrate? And I don't know, sometimes people think we go on vacation or we go somewhere like extravagant or like some Michelin star restaurant or whatever, but our tradition the last couple of years has been after the summit, which, this year ended on a Thursday, is that Thursday night, we go and get a Neapolitan pizza, and we sit there in the pizza place and eat it. And we were debating like this time around. So it was already kind of late, and we don't like to eat too late because it messes with your resting heart rate, which messes with your sleep quality, which messes with your HRV. And then you wake up and the trackers say you're doomed, right? You wake up in the red. But we said, hey, it's a slice of pizza.
Yeah.
How often do we do that? Well, we sat down, we got this delicious Antico pizza.
Yes.
And one slice, stayed one slice for you.
It did.
You're like, I think I'm only going to have one. I'm like, yeah, I'm probably going to have one. And we're going to take some back home, and then maybe we'll eat it later. One turned into 2, turned into 3, turned into 4, turned into 5. I think I ate 6 slices. I ate that entire
Probably
7,
pizza. Because if you...
minus one slice, which you ate.
7.
And I remember I was like halfway and I was like, hey, you better get on this right now, because
I can't.
If there's about to not be anything left.
I had just eaten a Summit cookie. If you know Summit cookies, I had just eaten a cookie, so I could only do one.
Those are pretty good too, but I'll tell you, this pizza hit, and then you wake up with a 2% recovery, like you just went on a bender the night before. It's like, nope.
The equivalent.
Nope, just pizza. But that's how we celebrate. And then we woke up the next morning on Friday morning and went right back to work. And we're at the office.
Yeah. And
the journey continues. That's how we do it, because there's a saying that we have internally here at Crisp, is that the reward for work done well is more work.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's how you know you're on the right track, if you always have more work ahead of you.
Yes.
And the year's not over yet.
No.
I mean, I know some people that are already on vacation. Q4 hits and they're like, oh, I'm done for the year. And when I hear about somebody like that, I think, okay, light work right here. Don't have to worry about that guy. Right? Because now we get all this time to get ahead.
Yeah.
Right? We could spend a quarter getting ahead of that person who's taking the year off. And they say, oh, but what about balance? What about, the balance? I'm not going to go on this whole tirade. We will save it for another AMA. But the people that mention that word, there's a different breed of human being. The thought doesn't even come to mind for like a high achieving driven individual. They're not thinking like, how do I do the least amount possible? And how do I, because I'm not going to go down this topic right now because then we'll never get to the podcast. But if a person starts saying those words, if they mention the B word, balance, if they say relax, take it easy, but do less, any of that, run as fast as possible from that human being if your goal is growth. But if your goal is stagnation and, lowering of standards and complacency.
Comfort.
I talked about this at the summit. Human beings are genetically engineered to be as lazy as possible. Like it was a survival mechanism. And back in the day, you wanted to conserve energy, right? So like the whole idea was like if we expend too much energy, we don't know if we're going to have like calories, the food, like the fuel to be able to offset that. So you just lay there like Charlie's parents and, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, right? But nowadays, you don't reward conservation of energy. You reward ambition and you reward like creation and innovation and, all these different things that entrepreneurs do. So you just got to be very careful about the people you surround yourself with because, if you surround yourself with 4 degenerates, before you know it, you'll be the 5th. 4 complacents, you'll be the 6th or the 5th.
5th, wow.
See? It almost got me there.
We're working on math right now with the kids.
I know, we are. So this is the AMMA. You guys submit the questions. You can text us at 404-531-7691. We may answer them on the show. I hear people listen to this podcast in all sorts of ways. Sometimes they're working out. Sometimes they're driving the car. Sometimes they are swimming in a pool. They're literally swimming in a pool, like audio in their ears as they're swimming through water. What a time to be alive, right? And David, I know that is what you were doing if you were listening to this podcast because he's mentioned that is something he does. Some people watch the podcast. They watch it on YouTube. Some people watch it on like various social media platforms. They watch the different bits. So however you consume this podcast, thank you. And we will keep this podcast free indefinitely, right? We have no plans to bring on any ads or sponsors or any of that stuff. But if you do want to pay it forward, we would greatly appreciate that by sharing this podcast with somebody that you feel would get value from it or by leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. So with that, Jessica, let's get to the questions.
All right. Let's kick it off with question number 1. Michael, I run a small family law practice in Florida, and I recently fired someone who was very well liked by the team, but wasn't performing and was secretly dealing with several issues that could have really jeopardized the firm. My staff doesn't have the full picture, nor can I share it, but now that she's gone, pretty much the whole staff is upset with me and it's causing such unnecessary drama. They think I was too harsh on her, even though I'd been trying to coach her for months. I know I made the right business decision, but everyone's looking at me now like I'm a bad guy. Part of me wants to explain myself to win them back, but I know that's probably not the right answer either. How would you handle this?
It's a good question. You can add this to the list of the 1,000 reasons why leadership sucks.
Yeah.
But here's the harsh truth. That whatever the conditions were, the situation was, and like if maybe in some alternate reality, if you could just tell everybody what happened, they'd be like, oh, we understand. This person did X, Y, and Z, this negative thing. Like sometimes it's really, really bad. Sometimes they stole money from the business. Sometimes they had like an affair. Sometimes it's just something really, really bad. You just cannot have it in the organization, but the organization continue to grow and thrive. But no matter what it is, you can't share it because you're the leader. So from the outside looking in, everybody sees and they're like, I can't believe you let like Lucy go. Lucy's so great. Lucy's my friend. Because their interaction with Lucy is like a cordial interaction, right? They're not basically investing in Lucy with the expectation of some sort of return at some point in the future. Lucy's just, he's like the locker room guy, right? Like everybody likes having him in the locker room, except for the owner of the team and the coach who actually has to win football games, right? So the reality of it is that, like, I don't even remember what the question was, but the tough part of it is like, did you do the wrong thing? Not if this person was a disruption to the business and was preventing like the business from being more competitive in the future, more successful, and would jeopardize the livelihoods of other people in the organization. You probably did the right thing. In terms of what you can do, look, sometimes being the leader is being the one who has to just take all the tomatoes and stones and et cetera, right? I think it was, I shared this meme the other day in Slack. They were interviewing Geno Smith, an NFL quarterback, and he does his press conference and he like, they're knocking on him for like the performance of the team. And he's like, look, whatever concerns you have, they're my fault. If your kids aren't doing well in school, it's my fault. If your car breaks down, blame it on me, right? And that's just the reality of like, people need someone to blame. And more often than not, as the leader of your organization, when someone feels like something isn't right, they need someone to blame, and that someone is usually you.
Yep.
And all I can say is that you have to do what's best for the team. And sometimes you just have to take it. The reality of it is, as your team and organization grows, your approval rating probably won't be 100%. And that's okay. Like, if you can get above like an 80% approval rating, that's pretty good. But there's going to be people that just, for whatever reason, don't agree with your decision making.
Right.
And they may disagree with it because maybe they don't have full context. Maybe if they knew the reality of what is actually going on, they'd be like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. We can't have somebody who steals from the business in the organization. Like, that does not make sense. Or someone does something unethical or compromises the integrity of the business. Like, yeah, that obviously can't fly. But you can't say those things because of all the rules and laws around HR. And then at the same time, like, you want to be the bigger person, and sometimes they'll never know all the BS you had to keep from them. Welcome to Leadership 101. It's just what it is.
Yep. Lonely at the top.
You got to eat it.
All right. Question number 2. Hey, Michael, I've been working on improving my leadership skills lately, and I've noticed that the leaders I respect the most are the ones who piss me off at some point by calling me out. At the time, I resented them, but looking back, those hard conversations were turning points in my career. For some reason, I find myself unable to do the same for my team because I care about them. How would you overcome this? Oh boy, this is like, you have a lot to say about this.
You want me to go here?
Here we go. All right, I'll be back in a little bit.
It's kind of like a running start here. You're saying two conflicting things, all right? You're like, you want to provide tough love, and then you're saying what prohibits you from doing it is because you care about your team. And yet the best leaders that you reflect on were the ones who provided you with the tough love, who you believe then, as a result, cared about you. Hence the love and then the harshness, tough love that came with that. I don't view these as mutually exclusive things. I think you provide that type of feedback and you tell somebody the truth because you care about them. And if you're worried about hurting their feelings, then it's just like ruinous empathy. We talk about this all the time, radical candor. Kim Scott, we've had her on the podcast a couple times. And it's you caring about someone. This is, it's interesting. At the summit, Robert Herjavec talked about this. And he said that the biggest thing that they noticed with a lot of the pitches of the people that came on from Shark Tank was that they'd have some sort of business idea, and it was a terrible idea, like an absolutely terrible idea. They hadn't made any money. They hadn't proven it out in the market. And when they came to do their pitch and they'd ask them about it, and they'd be like, well, why did you believe this is a good idea? And they said, well, all my friends and family told me that this is a good idea. And he's like, well, the tough part about that is your friends and family, they love you. So when they're going to provide you with feedback, the fact that, you're starting this new business, like, that's a great idea. Or like, yes, you can do it. But they're not the market. And they're not the ones that are actually basically the check writers and the ones that are presenting the dollars in exchange for the service or product or whatever that is you're producing, right? So they're going to tell you, yes, you're doing a great job because they don't want to hurt your feelings and they don't want to let you down, but they're not telling you the truth. And they're not telling you the truth because they don't want to hurt you. But this is different in business because love in business is shared differently from love in a family, right? So in business, the way you actually can express love to someone, and I mean this in like a politically correct way.
Yes.
Is by providing them with actual feedback to enable them to grow and improve. If they're not meeting the mark in some area, providing them with that feedback of here's how you grow, here's how you improve, right? It's constructive criticism is what it is. And the people who cannot take that feedback, it even sounds like the person who even submitted this question at some point in their life did not like the people that were giving them that type of feedback. They said, like, I look back in my life and the ones that were that provided me the harshest criticism, I now reflect and they really helped me grow, right? It's like that movie Whiplash. The reality of it is that's, again, it's like heavy lies the crown with leadership. I, and you as well, we sometimes have to sit down with people and we have to have difficult conversations. In difficult conversations, you think, why is it a difficult conversation? Is it difficult for me? Sometimes it's not really difficult for me. It's difficult a lot of times because you worry that I don't want to hurt this person's feelings. The reason it's not difficult for me is that I am more concerned with this person not getting this feedback and not learning, growing, and improving.
Yes.
And that's going to be more detrimental.
Genuinely care. And that is why, you've always said that. You're like, this is so easy for me. And it's not to be harsh or mean or anything like that. It's literally because you care and you want them to be better.
Correct.
Yes.
Now, sometimes people come out of these meetings and they don't take the feedback well because they, it's like, what is that movie? Tom Cruise is like, you can't handle the truth. It's like, I want the truth, right? Can't handle the truth. And just because in that moment, it's not everybody likes getting hearing any sort of constructive criticism. They don't like to hear about their faults or where they're falling short. The ego is a powerful thing, right? So If you're telling them, hey, you're missing the mark here, or when you do this, it actually holds you back from this and it negatively impacts this, sometimes ego flies in and says, no, that's not true. I'm perfect. Or like, that's just, they're the only person that sees it that way, or whatever. We start rationalizing and justifying and doing all these different things. And all that is just preventing growth. It prevents progress. I guess I'd look at it from the standpoint that if you truly care about your people and you care about your team, then you're willing to deliver the feedback that they need. And you're also willing to take the fact that some aren't going to respond well to it and may not like you in that present moment. I've had countless people over the years that left our organization and they're like, man, I can't stand Michael and he's overly critical of me and he's so harsh and so on. And then they go and do their own thing. And a couple years later, I get a text that says, hey man, I'm so grateful. I was thinking back like in this moment, and at the time I didn't understand it. And I'm really grateful you pointed this out to me and I wouldn't be where I am today had it not been for that. And I've had that happen enough times over the last, 13, 14 years to where you start to see, okay, like let's do the right thing to help this person grow. Now, how they receive that, like it's one thing. It's like what comes out of the mouth, how it's received at the ear can be two different things, right? Sometimes they're not ready to hear that feedback, and sometimes it makes more sense in the future, and they kind of reflect on it. But I wouldn't hold back on delivering it if your goal is to actually help people and help them grow. If you actually love people, as you say, you don't hold back.
All right, to close this out with question number 3, Michael, I run a large PI firm in Colorado. We've been super successful in this market for decades, but my partners have been getting on my ass lately saying the team thinks I'm too abrasive and harsh. Obviously, I disagree. I didn't get this far by pretending every day is sunshine and rainbows, and I don't like sugarcoating feedback. I push people hard, and I have high standards. That's just what it takes. A part of me feels like it's the times changing, and I just have to suck it up and change my style to be more palatable. Then the other part of me thinks that this is how we got to where we are today. What do you think?
It's hard to say from that, from the question alone without like actually going into the law firm. And but what I will say is, you get to dictate your culture and you decide what type of environment you want to have. And your culture is what works for you. And if that type of environment is, creating alignment with the team and it's people are working well together and collaboratively and you're producing great results and output, then that's exactly, probably the right way to do it. If it's not working, then you might need to adjust it and change it, right? So there's not like one culture that works for every type of organization. And I know there's a lot of stuff. You ever go on LinkedIn, it's like the worst place to go, right? Because it's a bunch of people who don't run businesses telling other people how they should run businesses.
Yes.
And it's a lot of like platitudes and like, oh, I was driving the other day and I had this thought. And then, I realized that I just read it and I'm like, wow, get back to work.
Yes.
But I guess my point with this is that you have to find what works best for you. Like we say like a culture of crisp is not the culture for the world. It's not what every organization should look like, but it's what works for us, right? And you're going to have certain types of cultures and value sets that attract certain types of people, and you're going to have a culture that can repel other types of people. And ultimately, it just comes down to, does that work in terms of aligning with your values, and does it get you the results that you want, right?
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't get you the results that you want, then obviously you should dictate some sort of change. But the way the New England Patriots operate is different from the Miami Dolphins and is different from the New York Jets, right? Every locker room is going to be a little bit different. And all I can say is just that, is it right or wrong? Like, it's oftentimes a question of, the time's changing. And like, again, this stuff is so tough to say. My answer always to this is just like, what data are you getting back? And I in the years past, like I remember like, we saw this happen in 2019 and we saw in COVID and so on. And you see like things happening in the world and just changing in terms of how people operate, what their expectations are in the workplace, what they view as strong workplace culture versus a toxic workplace culture and so on. And it's very easy to start to think what you're doing is wrong, and then there's some utopic type of culture out there. Like I remember early on when Google had kind of their,
their heyday.
Yeah, it was just like we got water slides and we got a gym and we got food and like everything was so focused around like, okay, how do we give everybody everything, create these amazing work environments, because that's going to be our competitive advantage of providing these incredible different benefits. And all these other organizations are like, well, we're not Google, so how do we do that? And then some organization, like somebody came up with like unlimited PTO, which is like the dumbest idea ever. And they're like, oh, we give them like, what's better than like PTO? And it's like unlimited PTO, but only it's not really unlimited because somebody like couldn't just take 6 months off and keep their job, right? And then at the same time when data shows people taking less PTO when they have unlimited PTO because now they feel bad for taking it, as opposed to you give people X number of PTO days and now they can take that allotment of days and you want them to take it so they can rest and recover and so on. But when you say it's unlimited,
Yes.
Is it really unlimited?
Yeah.
Can somebody really leave for a year?
Asterisk on
you
there.
pay them for a year straight? That's unlimited with an asterisk.
Yes.
It's just say like under it, actually not. So again, when I say like get data back, it's ultimately, I think a measure whether your culture is successful or not, it really just comes down to, are you achieving the desired results and the desired outputs? Are you getting to where you're going, right? And then what is the friction associated with that? So it's up to you, and it's up to you to decide what your leadership style is going to be, what's going to be the most effective type of culture for your type of organization. And the last thing I'll add on this is just that a mistake that I made years ago, a brief lapse of judgment, was I think trying to have a culture that's not authentic to you. So if you're trying to do something because you saw something online, or you're trying to like adapt to the changing workplace, right? Like people always say, and that doesn't feel authentic to you, then it's going to sting every single day. And ultimately, you as the leader of your organization and the leader of your firm, you are ultimately deciding, here's what our values are going to be, here's who we're going to hire, here's who we're going to fire. Like, this is how we're going to get to, achieve the vision that we're setting out to achieve. And that's all on you to figure out. And I find that the best way to do that is to do it in a way that's authentic to you. Doesn't mean that it has to be for everyone, but I promise you, there's going, the way you do things is there's going to be people that you attract.
Yes.
And there's going to be people that you repel. And that's absolutely necessary, because we want to attract killers, and killers are attracted to a ambitious, aligned, committed workplace that's innovative, that is demanding, right? Like that attracts driven, hardworking people.
Right.
Right. It repels lazy motherfuckers. Okay. It absolutely repels them. They're like, wait, what? How long is the test assignment? I'm going to spend this much time doing it? Yes, exactly. That's what we're trying to do. We do not want you here, right? Because if we said, hey, man, everybody coming in, everybody gets a scoop of ice cream, right? Then you get everybody, right? And you're not filtering and attracting the ones that you want, right? A players like to work with A players. C players do not like to work with A players, and A players certainly don't like to work with C players. So you decide what type of environment you have, and ultimately, based on those decisions, that will dictate whether you get to where you're going.
All right. Thank you for that one. That's a perfect way to close this out.
All right. Till next time.
You've been listening to the Game Changing Attorney podcast with Michael Mogill. If you found this episode valuable, here are 3 free ways that we can help you grow your law firm. Number 1, download the first chapter of Michael's book absolutely free at gamechangingattorney.com. Number 2, you can shoot Michael a text at 404-531-7691 and ask him any question you'd like. You might just hear the answer on the next episode. And finally, number 3, if you can leave this podcast a 5-star review, it will help us gain access to more influential thought leaders and bring their lessons learned here to you. For more information on this episode, see the show notes in your podcast app or visit legalpodcast.com.